You guys are back after it was almost like 30 years. Does it feel like a continuation or almost like a sequel with, a new story with similar characters?
Well, exactly. It's a new start, really. It sounds kind of silly at this stage of the game, but like the Strange Advancement was out there in the '80s. That was a great experience, but a lot of it went by me. I was too caught up in the stress and angst of the whole situation, and and I didn't really have time to enjoy the process. So this time out, I'm relaxed. I'm having fun, and especially enjoying meeting the fans. Because back in the '80s, there was no social media. You didn't know who was listening to your music. And now I can converse with them. It's like, hey, what you think of that song, or whatever, or what song do you want us to play in the next show, or you can actually directly communicate with these people. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing now. Like a band can create its own community now.
Absolutely.
Which is fantastic. And I saw an interview with you where you mentioned that part of how Strange Advance kind of restarted was the passing of David Bowie. What was it about that kind of made you take action?
Daryl and I had been talking about, taking the band back out, and we were just toying with the idea, for a long time. And then finally, when Bowie passed, it's like, okay, if we're ever going to do this, clearly this is the time, because we're next in line. So, yeah, we really got to make our time count here. So that's what really made it real. We decided, okay, let's actually do this. And sadly, Daryl wasn't able in the end to do it. Kind of got, but issues around traveling. Well, anyway, but that we've got a great band. The other great thing about it is, back in the '80s, when we would do a show, it was kind of stripped down. It wasn't as elaborate as I would have liked. And now we're working with Tim Hill, who did all the visuals for Skinny Puppy. So we've got a lot going on. It's a very, it's an amazing show to see, and not to mention here.
Yeah, so it almost feels like, in a way, what you were trying to envision doing back in the '80s, the world is kind of like finally caught up and is able to do maybe what you were envisioning back then.
Oh, absolutely. Like, for instance, we used to cart around all our big bits of gear, and especially keyboards and stuff. And now, we did keyboard players, and we operate with a program called Maystage. So all our sounds, all our samples, everything is in, in a laptop, for instance, or a Mac Mini or something. And, that's our gear. Here it is. Like, no, you don't have to carry that, 800-pound handle. Here. Yeah. So it's, technology has caught up to our, dreams and ambitions for the band.
Which is fantastic. But I will ask, because some people are still old school. So is there still a piece of gear from back in the day that you're like, no, I can't get rid of that because it sounds better than the new stuff?
Well, that's where the sampling comes in, because I did a lot of sampling. It's like, you got a keyboard. All right, well, it weighs 200 pounds, and it's got to have its own seat on the plane. And it's like, all right, so it only gets used in 3 songs, but they're important songs. So I just record the part, or record the sounds, throw it into main stage, and now I can play the identical sounds from that instrument, and no one would ever know that the original instrument isn't on stage. So, in answer to your question, I am the original piece of gear that survives.
Yes, we cannot replace you. Not yet, anyhow. And one thing, and I think this goes into a little bit of kind of fully realizing the Strange Advance sound and visuals that you wanted to get. But when I hear Strange Advance songs, I get a real sci-fi feeling about it. Was that conscious, or did it just kind of happen? Like, are you a sci-fi fan, or was it just kind of what came out?
It's just inbred. What can I tell you? We are sci-fi geeks. And, like, for instance, Blade Runner was one of our all-time favorite science fiction films. And we wrote, 3 or 4 songs just around the feeling of Blade Runner. It was very inspiring. And, yeah, for, we love sci-fi. And Daryl, it's so good at condensing entire novels into a 3 or 4 minute pop song, and yeah, it's a big part of our sound.
Well, and like I say, you can hear it in there, and it was always took me aback. Like Flock of Seagulls, their first album was all about alien abduction, but you wouldn't know it unless you know. Are there any kind of hidden meanings to some of the Strange Advance songs that we may not know?
Well, I get asked all the time about the meaning of their song, and I always resist explaining exactly what inspired a song, because so many times people have their own interpretations, and it's a meaningful thing to them. And then so tell me about this part of the song or whatever. It's like, okay, well, all I can tell you is it's got nothing to do with what you think it's to do with. No, it's like so it's like, yeah, I don't want to ruin anyone, the preconceived ideas about anything. You take whatever you want out of a song. That's what it's there for. That's all art. It's like, I love this painting. Really? It's like, yeah, just a little corner of it, little splash of color. That's enough for me to make me fall in love with this thing. And it's the same with songs. Like, I don't know if you remember a song called Life in a Northern Town.
Yes.
Dream Academy. Well, there's a line in that song. The singer sings at the end, "Take it easy on yourself." And I remember the first time I heard that song, like, oh, thank you. Thank you for the advice. That's good advice. Take it easy on yourself. So it was meaningful to me. I mean, it's a great song. But that's the thing that drew me in, And then to find out that
the singer was saying, oh, someone came up to me and told me how this song meant so much to them and helped them get through a really rough time in their life. And I didn't have the heart to tell them it was just about my cat.
Exactly. Exactly. I had a guy come up to me and explaining how happy he was that I wrote Worlds Away, because, he knew that it was about his divorce with his wife. And it's like, okay. I didn't know you, so I don't know how I would write about it anyway. Yeah, but what can you do? That's what the song meant to him. So, all right.
Yeah, no, totally fair. I do want to go back to the beginning because I love how the band started in Vancouver with an ad in the Vancouver Sun. And that's how Daryl came to be and how Strange Advance eventually came to be.
Amazing how these things occur.
Yeah, like what
imagine if Daryl had read the newspaper that day.
Right.
Nothing would ever have happened.
And then
I wrote an ad, put it in the Vancouver Sun. I think it was a drummer looking for singer, guitarist to join the Glitter Brigade or something like that. And I thought, hey, we were so into the UK music thing, David Bowie, T-Rex, through all those people. And yeah, I wanted somebody who was into the same stuff, and I found Daryl, and it was perfect.
Yeah, well, I think that Glitter Brigade or however you phrased it in the ad kind of was a tip-off, right? And so you only got people that got it. But did you have to go through a lot of hopefuls, or was Daryl like kind of the first one through the gate?
You know something? I have no memory of anyone else responding to that ad. Now that you mention it, I think it was just Daryl that responded. And then I went over to his house and was told to, he lived at home with his parents. Then, Daryl's downstairs. I go downstairs and it's a very dark basement. And Daryl's sitting there and we shake hands and say hi. And then he starts to play these songs, and they're fantastic songs. And I'm just like, well, this is incredible. I found my own David Bowie here,
Yeah.
And I hear it, astound, but fuck. And I turn around and like, oh, there's somebody else in the room. sitting in the dark. I didn't even know. It was his sort of sometime girlfriend. Anyway, it was a little odd.
That story could have went a totally different avenue, like a Forensic Files episode.
It was,
I got one last question for you. Since we established the sci-fi love and nerdiness, I have to ask: Star Trek, Star Wars, where are you going?
well, I have to say, the new Star stuff is pretty darn good. Andover and things like that. They really up their game.
Yes.
But as far as like philosophy and life, I really relate to Star Trek. I mean, it's a deeper, a more meaningful experience for me, anyway.
No, I see that. And you know what? I asked the question, but I also don't like the question because I enjoy both. I'm definitely more a Star Wars guy, but I can watch Star Trek and enjoy the heck out of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they both have their gifts to bring to the world, and more of the same, please.